here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Kelly Donahue, and it's so wonderful, I'm going to cry, to see you all. Thank you for taking the time to be here. My phone is out, so that's one of my notes here. So let's just start with that. Please take your cell phone out if you have it, and either put it on airplane or silent or turn it off. And if you're not sure how to do that, ask the youngest person around you. And I don't know that I might be younger than some of you, but I'm not. Anita's back there. She's probably more tech savvy. So just turn it off, or we'll boot it out to the piano out front or whatever. So that's one of my notes. The other notes are housekeeping notes as well. Please remember that entrance is an exit where you came in, or through these doors here. I don't think we want to jump through the windows, but if we have to, remember where your exits are. And I think you know where the restrooms are, so that's good. We will have a brief intermission after the first act, so you can follow along in your program and know when that's coming up. We'll have about 10 minutes of a intermission. I'll come around here as they get into place. Yes, we did do this last year. So how many of you saw it last year?
But how many of us remember?
That's one possibility, Hazel, but I didn't think of that. The idea is that it's just really good. It has some good stories, and we're only reviewing a few of them from last year. There's lots of new scenes. So I hope you enjoy following this crew from kindergarten to up to the age that we're all in right now. I think you'll be able to understand some of the scenarios. Thank you for your donations. You know, this is a pay-as-you-want show, and we really hope you wanted to pay a lot because it goes to the Benevolent Care Fund. Holla back there, yeah. So thank you for that. And uh-oh, that is one of our songs. I have to tell you, uh-oh, somehow Tammy Barry, who did our program, her name got missed on the program, and she didn't call me out on it. So when you see Tammy Barry down in the 300 building, please thank her for helping us with the program. I told you about exits. You know it's based on Fulgham's books. I fell in love with this when I did it in 2008. There's many other books that he gets some of these scenes from, and I hope you just enjoy, settle in, think, but not too much. Enjoy, laugh. And did I mention thank you for the donations? Keep them coming, because maybe we'll get to do it again. Phone check. Phone check. They are live streaming it, just so you know. Are my actors ready? I think I've said enough. I've talked. I'm long-winded. But thank you again for being here. And without further ado, that's my bulletin, my church bulletin. All I really needed to know, I learned in kindergarten by Carroll, Lutheran Village, Reader's Theater.
Ask a kindergarten class how many of you can draw, and all hands shoot up.
I can draw. I can draw.
What can you draw?
Anything.
How about a dog eating a fire truck in the jungle?
Sure. How big do you want it?
How many of you can sing?
I can sing. Nope. Yep.
Yes, of course we can sing.
What can you sing?
Anything.
What if you don't know the words?
That's okay. We'll just make them up.
Let's sing.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
Whoa.
How many of you dance? What kind of music do you like to dance to?
Any kind. Let's dance.
Do you like to act and play?
Yes. Yep.
Do you play musical instruments?
Yes.
Do you write poetry?
Yes.
Yes.
We're learning that stuff now.
Try those same questions on a college audience. A few students will raise their hands when asked if they can draw or dance or sing or paint or act or play a musical instrument. More often than not, those who do raise their hands will want to qualify their responses with their limitations.
I play the piano, but not very well. My mother made me do it. I only dance to rock and roll.
I only sing in the shower.
And I only draw conclusions.
When asked the limitations, college students answer,
I don't have any talent.
I haven't done any of that stuff since the 3rd grade.
Who's got the time?
That's not my major.
you can imagine the response to the same questions asked of an older audience.
Oh, gee, is that the correct time on that clock? I've got to go.
I don't think so.
You've got to be kidding me.
Maybe after 3 martinis.
What went wrong between kindergarten and now?
Whatever happened to
Yes,
of course I can.
I'm so caught up in my grown-up stuff. It seems I've lost my spontaneity. Not to mention perspective on living life. Every day at my job with my family. But I'm discovering all I really need to know. I learned in kindergarten about how to live, what to do, how to be. It's the sandbox code of ethics, not some grad school mumbo jumbo that's had the greatest impact on me. I learned, share, play fair, don't hate people, don't take things that don't belong to you. If you hurt someone, say you're sorry, to name just a few. Clean up your own mess and wash hands before you eat. Hold hands and stick together when you cross the street. Flush, live a balanced life, learn some, think some, work and play. And sing and dance and draw and take a nap each day. Be aware of wonder. Think of the seed in the paper cup. Who knows why the root goes down and the plant grows up? But we're all like that. And just as the seed, the mouse, the bee, and the goldfish will all die someday, well, so will we. Remember the first word you learned in Dick and Jane book. The biggest, most important word of all. Cinderella was the title on the chalkboard marquee.
And given the task of dramatizing a fairy tale for a teacher's conference, the kindergarten class decided on the classic old rags to riches story, Cinderella.
You know how it goes. Shy, agreeable, prognathous, victimized by abusive step-parent, waits for a wise matriarchal figure to rescue her and deliver her and transform her from codependency to bliss.
In other words, if you're good looking, good at heart, and have a fairy godmother, you've got it made.
It was a good choice from the teacher's point of view because there were so many parts in the story of Cinderella that every child would be able to have a part in the play.
A list of characters was compiled as the class talked through the plot of the drama.
There was the absolutely ravishing Cinderella.
The evil stepmother,
The two wicked but stupid stepsisters.
And the beautiful and wise fairy godmother.
The pumpkin,
Mice,
Coachman.
horses,
kings,
And all the people. And all the people at the king's ball.
generals,
admirals,
knights,
Princesses.
and of course, the ultimate object of fabled desire, the prince.
who, if you recall, was only a salesman interested in pushing his inventory of glass slippers.
The children were allowed to choose roles for themselves. As the parts were allotted to each child, they were labeled with a felt pen and paper and sent to stand over there by the side of the room until casting was complete. Finally, every child had a part.
Except one. One small boy who had remained quiet and disengaged from the selection process. Norman. He was a kid who was somehow different. Not weird, just different. The way he looked at things. Norman was always thinking. Like so many misunderstood but great thinkers, Norman was teased a lot by his classmates, causing him to live on the fringe of kindergarten society.
Well, Norman, said the teacher, what are you going to be?
Well, I'm going to be the pig.
Pig? Norman, there's no pig in the story of Cinderella.
Well, there is now.
Norman did not relate to being a footman or a mouse or a pumpkin.
He knew his character. Pig.
And he was not about to give up his part in the play and go over and stand against the wall where a loser would stand.
He intended to participate wherever pigs fit into the scheme of things, without giving up dignity or identity. He took it for granted that there was a place for pigs, and the teacher would know that.
So, what do you say to a kid who's already thinking of a costume? A pink, long underwear, a pipe cleaner tail, and a paper cup for nose.
What do you say to an innocent little pig who doesn't see his career as an actor teetering on the brink of humiliation?
And what do you say to all the pigs? All those who are different and who do not accept the available boxes and pigeonholes.
So what did the teacher say at the moment?
Well, sometimes teachers talk more like fairy godmothers.
Oh dear.
And Norman was declared the pig in the story of Cinderella.
Oh. It was quite fine with all the other children and the rest of the class, because nobody wanted to be the pig anyway.
And since there was nothing in the script explaining what the pig was supposed to do, the action was left up to Norman. As it turned out, he gave himself one of the all-time best walk-on parts in the history of children's theater. He decided he was Cinderella's personal pig. Where she went, he went.
He made no sound. He simply sat on his back haunches and observed what was going on, like some silently supportive Greek chorus.
The expressions on his face reflected the details of the dramatic action, looking worried.
Sad.
Anxious,
Hopeful.
puzzled,
Mad.
Bored.
sick.
And pleased as the moment required.
There was no doubt about what was going on, and no doubt that it was important.
One look at the pig and you knew. The pig was so earnest, so sincere, so very there.
Norman created such dramatic tension that the people who know how the story was supposed to end began to have their doubts.
At the climax, when the prince finally placed the glass slipper on Cinderella's foot and the ecstatic couple hugged and rode off to live happily ever after, Norman finally made his move. He went wild with joy, dancing around the stage on his back feet and barking like a dog.
Woof! 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 Well, in rehearsal, the teacher had tried explaining to Norman, even if there was a pig in the story of Cinderella, there's no such thing as a singing, dancing, barking pig.
Well, there is now.
It's true, Norman. It's true. You knock 'em dead, pig.
The presentation at the teachers' conference was a smash hit.
When Norman danced his dance, the crowd of weary teachers laughed and wept and cheered.
And later, when the pig stumbled out for her curtain call, the applause turned into a spontaneous standing ovation.
The teachers were able to see that the real Cinderella was not the little girl with the button nose and blonde hair, but Norman, the dancing, barking pig.
And they knew the real fairy godmother was not the child waving her fairy wand, but the teacher standing in the wings, weeping.
Kindergarten teachers know magic when they see it.
Well, the kindergarten class had many invitations to come and perform their highly acclaimed production of Cinderella. Sometimes the teacher would have to explain what was about the performance that was so unique.
You see, it has a pig in it.
Oh, really?
Yes. The star of the show is a dancing, barking pig.
But there's no dancing, barking pig in Cinderella.
Well, there is
now.
the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific, some villagers practice a unique form of logging. If a tree is too large to be felled with an axe, the natives cut it down by yelling at it. I can't lay my hands on the article, but I swear I saw it. Woodsmen with special powers would creep up on a tree just at dawn and suddenly scream at the top of their lungs. They continue this for 35 days. The tree dies and falls over. The theory is that the hollering kills the spirit of the tree. According to the villagers, it always works.
Ah, those poor, naive natives.
Me, I just yell at my wife.
I yell at the telephone.
I yell at the lawnmower.
I yell at traffic,
At the dog.
at my kids.
And at machines.
Especially at machines.
Machines and relatives got most of the yelling. Don't you know what's good it does? Machines and things just sit there.
Even kicking doesn't always help.
As for people, well, the Solomon Islanders may have a point. Yelling at living things does tend to kill the spirit in them.
It was the summer of 1959 at the Feather River Inn near the town of Braeston in the Sierra Nevada mountains of Northern California. It was a resort community, and I was just out of college, and I got a job there that combines being the night desk clerk in the lodge and helping out with horse wrangling at the stable. The owner-manager is Italian-Swiss with European notions about conditions of employment. He and we just didn't get along. I think he was a fascist who wants peasant employees who know their place, and he thinks I'm a good example of how democracy can be carried too far. One week, the employees had been served the same thing for lunch every single day. 2 wieners, a mound of sauerkraut, and stale rolls. And to compound insult with injury, the cost of the meals was deducted from our check. And I was outraged. On Friday night of that awful week, I was at my desk job around 11 o'clock, and the night auditor had just come on duty. I went into the kitchen to get a bite to eat and found notes to the chef to the effect that wieners and sauerkraut were on the employee menu for 2 more days.
That tears it. I quit.
For want of any better audience, I unloaded on the night auditor, Sigmund Ruhlman.
I have had it up to here. I am going to get a plate of wieners and sauerkraut and wake up the owner and throw it on him. I am sick and tired of this crap and insulted. Nobody is going to make me eat wieners and sauerkraut for a whole week and make me pay for it. Who does he think he is anyhow? How can life be sustained on wieners and sauerkraut? This is un-American. And I don't like wieners and sauerkraut enough to eat it one day, for God's sake. And the whole hotel stinks, anyhow. And the horses are all nags, and all of the guests are idiots. And I'm packing my bags and heading for Montana, where they never even heard of wieners and sauerkraut, and wouldn't feed that stuff to pigs. Well,
it was something like that, and, well, I raved on this way for 20 minutes. Needn't repeat it all here. You do get the drift. My monologue was delivered at the top of my lungs.
The top of my lungs!
Punctuated by blows.
Blows on the front desk.
Kicking of chairs.
And much profanity.
It was a call to arms.
Freedom, unions, uprisings, and the breaking of chains for the working masses.
As I pitched my fit, Sigmund Woolman, the night auditor, sat watching me with sorrowful eyes. He put a bloodhound in a suit. You have Sigmund Woolman. He's got good reason to look sorrowful. You see, he's a survivor of Auschwitz. 3 years. He's a German Jew. He liked being alone at the night job. It gave him intellectual space, gave him peace and quiet. And even more, he could go into the kitchen, have a snack, whenever he wanted. All the wieners and sauerkraut he wanted. To him, it was a feast. And more than that, there's nobody around at night to tell him what to do. In Auschwitz, he dreamed of such a time. The only person he sees at work is me, the nightly disturber of his dream. Now our shifts do overlap for an hour, and here I am again, a one-man war party at full cry.
Ah!
Are you finished?
No, why?
Listen to me. You know what's wrong with you. It's not wieners and kraut, and it's not the boss, and it's not the chef, and it's not this job.
Why? What's wrong with me?
You think you know everything, but you don't know the difference between an inconvenience and a problem. If you break your neck, if you have nothing to eat, if your house is on fire, you got a problem. Everything else is just an inconvenience. Life is inconvenient. Life is lumpy. You learn to know the difference between an inconvenience and a problem, you'll live longer. And you won't annoy people like me so much. Good night.
So there in the late night darkness of the Feather River Inn, Sigmund Woolman simultaneously kicked my butt and opened a window in my mind. Problem or inconvenience? I call this the Woolman test of reality. Problem or inconvenience? Life is lumpy, but a lump in the oatmeal, a lump in the throat, and a lump in the breast are not the same lump. We should learn to know the difference. Good night, Sig. This is my neighbor. She's a nice lady coming out her front door on the way to work in her looking good mode. She's locking her front door, picking up her daily luggage, her purse and her lunch bag, her gin bag for aerobics, and the garbage bucket to take out. She turns, sees me, gives me the big smiling,
Hello.
oh yes, takes 3 steps across the porch and goes, and that's a direct quote at about the level of a fire engine at full cry, spider web. She has walked full force into a spider web, and the pressing question now, of course, is...
Just where is the spider now?
She flings her baggage in all directions at the same time, does a high kick, jitterbug sort of dance, like a crazed stork in heat. Clutches at her face and hair, tries opening the front door without unlocking it, tries again, breaks the key off in the lock, runs around the house headed for the back door with the Doppler effect of
Now, a different view of this scene. This is the spider, rather ordinary, medium gray. My middle-aged lady spider. She's been up since before dawn, working on her web, and all is well.
Nice day. No wind. Dew point is just about right to keep things nice and sticky.
She's out checking the moorings and thinking about the little gnats she'd like to have for breakfast. Feeling good, ready for action. All of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Earthquake, tornado, volcano. The web is torn loose and wrapped around a frenzied, moving haystack. A huge piece of raw painted meat is making a sound a spider never heard before.
It's too big to wrap up and eat, and it's moving much too much for me to hold down.
Jump on it, hang on it, and dig in.
It's a human being.
She has caught a human being, and the pressing question is,
where is it going? And what in God's name is it going to do when it gets there?
The neighbor lady thinks the spider is about the size of a lobster and has big rubber lips and poisonous fangs. The neighbor lady will probably strip to the skin, take a full shower and shampoo just to make sure it's gone, and then put on a whole new outfit just to make sure she is not inhabited.
The spider, well, if she survives all this, she will really have something to talk about.
The one that got away was this big.
There's a song about spiders, and everybody knows it.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rays. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
What's the deal? Why do we all know that song? And why do we keep passing it on from generation to generation? Especially when it puts spiders in such a favorable light. I mean, out of all the times it has been sung, have you heard anybody go, "Ah!"
No. Maybe it's because it puts the life adventure in such clear and simple terms. Human beings have been coping with disasters and catastrophes for a long time. We're survivors, and we teach our kids about that. And maybe spiders need to teach their kids about it too.
The hell with that.
No. Sun comes out, clears things up, dries slides off the spider, and the small creature goes over to the drain pipe, looks up, and thinks,
I really want to know what's up there.
But it's a little wiser now. It checks the sky first. Looks for better toe holds. Says a spider prayer. Heads up.
Mystery.
toward the
Light.
and
Wherever.
That's it.
Intermission.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Sheesh! Yeah!
Eek! Ah! Yikes!
Whoa.
Yuck!
Is it in the dictionary?
You
Hardly ever see it on the page. It's part of our vocabulary. It has been since the diaper age. Uh-oh. What did Adam say to Evie moments after he began to chew on the apple she gave him? Well, I believe he said, uh-oh. And he understood her too. Millions of sounds have come and gone throughout history as we reach for ways to communicate more effectively. The most potent words we use in many cases are grunts and moans, together with shrugs and funny faces. Nanny, nanny, boo, boo. Uh-oh. Quietly reverberating. Since Adam's time is part of a symphony of squeaks and squawks communicating elaborate thoughts with perfect clarity. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh,
that my life is entering a new stage. My children are beginning to look middle-aged. And they pat me a lot in a very patronizing manner for no apparent reason. I'm not going to ask them why they pat me. I'll take all the affection I can get from them in any way they want to dish it up. But another clue of change is a sudden desire to take small children on excursions. My granddaughter Sarah and I went on an adventure that sounds like the title of a B-grade children's storybook. Grandmother and granddaughter go to the zoo. This was for the first time. And we saw the lions and tigers and bears and giraffes and elephants and gorillas and every last living thing that the zoo had to offer, and even some possible dead ones. But for all my, oh, Sarah, look at that. Sarah was most impressed with pigeons. Pigeons that hung around the concession stand. What she liked about the pigeons was that she could almost touch them, but not quite. No matter how carefully, quietly she approached the pigeons, they always managed to stay just one small step further out of her reach. The space between her and the pigeons moved in concert, and she spent most of the time at the zoo trying to close that moving space. All the rest of the animals were over there in another world behind moats and glass and cages. But the pigeons were here in her world. And it would have made it even more real if only she could have gotten her hands on one. Well, what would you do with it if you caught it, Sarah? Well, she didn't know, because possessing it was not in the plan. Just reaching for the pigeons was all that mattered to her. So we were riding home in a thunderstorm, and Sarah fell asleep in her car seat behind me. In her parents' driveway, I sat and looked at her face for a long time. Who is this child, I wondered. I want to know her. Now that I'm older and wiser and have a little more time and patience than I had when I was a mother, I will approach Sarah as she approaches the pigeons. Cautiously, carefully, and quietly. And I will wonder, as she does, how we can be so close and so far away at the same time. She's not mine, and she never will be. There are two people who call her their daughter. There are four people who call her their granddaughter. But Sarah belongs only to herself. There will always be a moving space between us, this untraversable distance that must be treated with respect. And just as Sarah doesn't know what she would do if she ever actually caught a pigeon, I don't know what I'd do if I actually caught Sarah. You see, to love someone and to possess it are not the same thing.
What do you do?
I'm a prince.
A prince?
Yeah. Just this morning, my wife said something. You're a real prince. And you know what? I really feel like I'm a real prince.
What do you do?
Marcel Duchamp, the sculptor and painter who was a fixture in the world of fine art during the period before 1940, was quite frustrated by the implications of the "What do you do?" He would answer, "I am a respirator, a breather," he explained. That he did more breathing than anything else and was very good at it too. After that, people were usually afraid to ask what else he did. What I do is more than a job title. It is literally how I spend my time in my life. I figure I've spent 2,500 hours brushing my teeth, 30,000 hours in traffic,
35,000 hours eating.
217,000 hours at work.
870,000 hours just coping with odds and ends,
Filling out forms.
paying bills,
Getting dressed and undressed.
being sick. When you finish with all the arithmetic, there's not a lot of time left over.
Somehow, in the middle of it all, you have to find the time to fix stuff. Good stuff.
Making a living and having a life are not the same things. The most time-bound man I know lives in my neighborhood. He's always in a hurry and always late, always harassed and fuzzed out. I'm not exactly sure what he does for a living, but it seems to involve buying and selling something downtown. He's a businessman. His choice of appropriate transportation is a brand new Range Rover, a vehicle built by the British for high adventure in the wilds of Africa. It is equally capable in steep canyons, quicksand, and blizzard conditions. It can outrun a lion and take a rhino charge head on. This particular Veltmobile is equipped with a winch, a gun rack, a CB radio, as well as an impressive stereo system, 2 cellular phones, a fax machine, and a coffee maker in the glove compartment. Yeah. Daily, I see my neighbor rushing out of his house burdened with the impediments of high adventure, carrying golf bag, gym bag, lunch bag, raincoat, umbrella, coffee, a sack of garbage for the dumpster, and his briefcase. And about that briefcase, it's made of the purest, unblemished belting leather, the best part of the hides of 4 carefully selected cows who gave their lives that he might carry this talisman of success. It has solid brass fittings, a combination lock, and his name embossed in gold. So it's a Tuesday morning around 7 o'clock on a fine day in June. A neighbor lady and I hit the street headed for work about the same time. She's a social worker for the Episcopal Church and drives an 8-year-old Ford just get me there and back, please God, sedan. And I drive a 1952 Jeep pickup, go ahead and hit me truck. At the same time, the owner of the Range Rover rushes up. His life is leveraged to the max these days, and his mind is in 3 continents at once. And he is in no mood for small talk. He grunts at us as he loads his lorry for the expedition downtown into the front seat and cranks the mighty engine like he's on the pole at the Indianapolis 500. Uh-oh, he left his coffee cup and briefcase on the roof of the Range Rover, and there they remain as he rolls away. To the rescue comes the nice lady social worker. She chases after him, urgently honking her horn, which he ignores because he is already on his cellular phone talking to London. But finally, her unceasing
honk, 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 honk.
It just gets the best of him. He throws the phone to the floor of the car, leans out the window, and shakes his fist. But the lady is focused on her rescue mission and honks on while
honk,
waving at him
honk,
to stop.
Honk, honk, honk.
I, in the meantime, driving close behind as a kind of a third float in this little parade, likewise try to get his attention with my Aruga horn.
Honk, honk,
I
honk.
salvaged out of an old Model A. And the combination of honking and Aruga finally gets his attention. He jams on his brakes, flings open the door of the Veltmobile, and tries to get out without first unlatching his safety belt. At the same moment, his morning cup of coffee slides off through, bounces across the hood, and smashes into the street, followed by his brass-bound briefcase, which crashes onto the hood, scrapes across with a fingernails on chalkboard, screech, and flops into the street on top of the broken coffee cup. The dear lady, mission accomplished, coasts slowly around the scene of the accident, smiles, waves at her neighbor dangling from the car in the clutches of his seatbelt, and sings out,
"Have a nice day."
And no, as you might anticipate, she did not run over the briefcase. No, she did not. I did. The nice lady social worker and I meant well. It's not always easy doing good. And when I told her later about running over the briefcase, she grinned. None of us is pure. Did I run over it on purpose? I don't know. As I say, none of us is pure.
Do you know about geek dancing? Yeah, you heard right. Not Greek dancing, but geek dancing. Actually, geek is in the dictionary. Refers to a carnival performer whose act consists of doing weird things, like biting the head off a live chicken.
In current slang, a geek is someone who looks like he might be capable of doing something like that.
But I've also heard kids using the word geek to describe anybody who is older and independent in lifestyle.
I think there's a kind of compliment in there somewhere. It means a little strange, but interesting. I guess that's true. A lot of us older types are a bit geeky. You reach the point in life when you just decide to go ahead and weird out. You start out the door in your bedroom slippers, headed for the grocery store. You don't go back and change into shoes. The heck with it. Or you go out to the mailbox in your bathrobe, your oldest, sleaziest bathrobe. And you don't give a darn who sees you. Or the doorbell rings. You don't check the mirror to see what you look like. You just open the door. It's their problem. Whoever they are. Some people call this going to seed. Others call it the beginning of wisdom. Take your pick. Anyway, about geek dancing.
When I am in the need of an uplifting experience, I go where people dance. I don't mean to joints where people go to get cropped and then wobble around the floor to music. I mean places where people really like to dance.
I like dancers. I've never met a serious dancer who wasn't a pretty fine human being. And I enjoy being surprised by just who the dancers are. I love seeing the most unlikely couples get up on the floor and waltz like angels.
My favorite place, the Uptown Tavern, has traditional jazz on Sunday nights from 6:30 to 9:30. The Geek Band plays swing music from Chicago and New York.
I like to look around and find the king of the hill champion, beat for the evening. An old guy, balding, white hair, kind of short, the kind of who just lists to the port when he walks. One who you might think was strictly nursing home material if you saw him at the bus stop. But you see him here, and you know a dancer, and he usually has his wife with him. The Geek S, a bit younger, always fluffed up a bit for dancing, and has been for 50 years. Check her shoes. If they are black with mid-heels and the strap across the instep, is sure bet that what she came here for and what she is going to do, well, the music cranks up. He takes her by the hand and kind of limps onto the floor. Oh my God. She steps into a permanent spotlight formed by his embrace. The years fall away, and once again, Cinderella and the prince move to the music in the room and the music in their hearts. He dances flat-footed and with the economy of motion. She responds to unseen suggestions to twirl out and around and back. Takes about 40 years to dance with a partner this way. Their eyes meet from time to time. You have to love someone for a long time to do what they are doing. I want to be, and fully intend to be, an old geek dancer.
Then you'll be needing the best geek trainer available. It is a public responsibility for us geeks to help everybody stay young as long as they can. To set a good example for the generation of geeks to come. And I don't want to die quietly, but at the end of the last dance, some lovely night, sit down in a chair, smile, and pass on.
All this reminds me of something I heard about the Hopi Indians. They don't think that there's much difference between dancing and praying, and that both are necessary for a long life. Hopis should know, I guess. They have been through a lot, and they're still around. They say that to be a useful Hopi, it is one who has a quiet heart and
takes part in all of the dances.
Yes.
A while back, I decided it was time to buy a cemetery plot. What an odd shopping experience. Now, popular wisdom says that the three most important things to consider in real estate decisions are location, location, and location. But I thought, it's a grave. What difference does a view really make? And resale value? Not a problem. Well, I made my purchase. Now, from time to time, I go to pay my respects at my final resting place. Visiting my own grave helps me untwist the snarls in my mind and soul, especially when I lose track of what's important. On a recent visit, I noticed that the neighboring property owners were James and Edith Grimm and Jacob Pleasant. Being buried between Grimm and Pleasant has a certain poetic rightness about it. Don't you think? Once I went to the cemetery late at night to bring out my favorite blanket with me. I laid it down on the grave and stretched it out. Looking straight up, I could see the star shine that was coming to me from millions of light years away. Trying to conceive of the magnitude and complexity of space, I just lay there looking into the infinite darkness and filled with all that light. You know, I have never liked the verse that says, "Dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return." We're energy, which is interchangeable with light. We're fire, water, and earth. So much more than dust. We're also hopes and fears, held together by wisdom and pulled apart by folly. The Bible verse should say instead, "Miracle thou art, and to mystery thou shalt return." The light I see from my grave started traveling through space ages before I came upon this earth. The stars, which are the source of that light, may have actually died out by now. Gone. That's a scientific fact. But somehow the light shines on. My life gives off another kind of light. That light shines on long after its source is gone.
you enjoyed it. We hope you will take a little piece of it with you. We hope that you put money in the basket outside. We hope that if you liked it, you'll be a big mouth like me and tell people about it, because we're doing it again, what was I thinking, at 7 o'clock tonight. And if you didn't like it, my mother always said, if you can't say something nice, don't say it. Yes! So please, just have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for coming.
For Kelly.
And thank you. Am I beginning to say something? Go ahead and sit down. Go ahead and sit down. No, you guys take your bow back there. They need to see you. And if you get into the Linda, thank you very much.